YouTube cares about is making sure that you as the viewer is excited about the content that they're suggesting to you. Because you as the viewer, if you are happy, you're going to watch more content. And that's the kind of key metric that you have to think about when it comes to growing a YouTube channel is duration. How long somebody is watching your video and how long they're staying on YouTube. Now, YouTube gives us the data on your average view duration per video, but they don't give us the data on session duration, which is something that is important, but it's not a metric that we have access to. But that means if someone comes in and watches one of my videos, I want them to go and then watch 5 more of my videos at once, because that's telling YouTube that this channel is getting people to come in and binge, and they're going to keep pushing my videos, because the more of my videos that get pushed to audiences that are similar to the people that are currently watching, the more that people are staying on YouTube.
Hello, friends. Welcome to the weekly episode of the Mayn Idea podcast, where today I have the pleasure of sitting down with Jeven Dovey. A quick reminder to fans of this podcast. If you enjoy these episodes, please take 30 seconds to leave a 5-star review on Apple or Spotify. This helps the show generate organic growth and allow me to continually bring on amazing guests. Also, there are now timestamps in the show notes, so feel free to jump around to the segment that interests you most, although I recommend listening to the episodes in their entirety. Jeven Dovey is a filmmaker, YouTuber, and adventurer. He runs a production company based out of Los Angeles, California, focused on fitness, and operates 2 channels on YouTube. His main channel, Jeven Dovey, touches on everything you need to know and learn about how to create online videos and find success on YouTube as he has. The second channel, Project Discover Earth, is where he uses those skills to tell stories from interesting and unique places around the world, with the goal of helping other creators find their direction. Jeven is one of the few individuals globally who has solved the complex Rubik's Cube of earning an income purely through creative drive and a willingness to learn the nuances of the exponentially growing creator economy. I personally am inspired by what Jeven has created, and I look forward to utilizing many of his systems to help grow this audience over the years to come. I hope you enjoy this conversation as much as I did. Without further ado, Jeven Dovey. Awesome. Well, Jeven, thank you so much for taking the time to do this, man. As we were speaking about beforehand, you are busy. You're producing a lot of content, and myself just beginning to even dabble a little bit in the effort that it takes to do that. I know that it's extremely time consuming on top of having a family and a new baby. So thank you so much for taking the time, man.
Yeah, no worries. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, you know, it's been really cool actually getting to know you in the way that I did, right? Because we knew each other from the gym setting, but really it's in passing, because either I was always busy or you were kind of on your way in or on your way out. But no matter what, we'd always have these little conversations. And as a result, I've actually kind of watched on the sideline as at least the YouTube presence has really grown a lot, like significantly, more than tripled since I think I met you, which is a really tall task. I mean, it's something I think a lot of people strive for, but it's also something that's exceptionally difficult. But watching it happen in real time has been really, really cool. I wonder, they always say like the first 1,000 subscribers are the hardest thing to get a hold of, to really like get those people involved in the messaging that you're putting out, the information that you're putting out. And so maybe in different tiers of subscribership and what that means to you, we could talk about how you navigated those different levels. So like, what was that initial 1,000 people like for you? Because you already had a successful business on the side, right?
Yeah. So basically where I sit, like when I started YouTube, I already had a production company. So my wife and I, we run a fitness production company, which is, we met around Equinox and everything and that whole world, which is, my wife was training there. So I feel like we have all these connections between the fitness world. And then, we started a production company 10 years ago now, which is crazy to think about. It's been 10 years we've been running the production company. But then 2016 is when I started my YouTube channel, and I created it as an outlet because a creative outlet because we were doing so much production around fitness. I just wanted to do something different. And so when I first started approaching YouTube, it was, I was just kind of having fun with it, not really setting expectations. And I think back then people didn't really know what could come of YouTube. Like there was obviously big YouTubers, but very much so in the last few years, there's become this creator economy that's been built, and people actually understand the process and they see it, and they see that there's all these channels that have over 1 million subscribers. And I think I was just reading a metric that it was like 2005, there was like 5 channels with 1 million subscribers, and now there's like 30,000 or more that have 1 million subscribers. And so it's like, it's just exploded in terms of the growth. But which is also like a huge indication that there's massive opportunity, because this is kind of still in the infancy of where, YouTube's going. It's the people on YouTube, the creators are the new media companies for the next generation and next few decades. But going back to your initial question, when you're talking about the kind of subscriber milestones, I have an interesting story around that, because that first 1,000 subscribers is definitely like, it's the biggest like hurdle trying to get through. The first 100's a big hurdle, but like 1,000, when I was doing my YouTube channel, the first year, I probably produced 200 videos. They were all travel vlogs. I didn't really know what I was doing. It was kind of just fun, and I didn't have a whole lot of attention. But I had a friend who had a channel with 900 subscribers, and I was like, man, how did he get 900 subscribers? Like, I don't get it. Like, I'm at like 200, and I'm like getting like 1 or 2 a day, and I'm like, man, this is just going to take forever. And I'm seeing what he's doing, and I'm like, I'm putting the content out. So it was like such a big hurdle. And then, you get over that first 1,000. The next goal is 10,000, and then it's like 50, and then 100. As soon as you break that 100,000, just the whole thing starts moving, and it's like this whole, it's just like a train. Like it just has this momentum going, and like sometimes I'll look up and I'll be like, oh, I just gained another 10,000 subscribers, and it's been like a couple weeks. Like I have these periods where I'll have a huge burst of traffic, and yeah, my channel's sitting right now at the time of recording this around 860,000, and it's on track. If you look at the Social Blade, which is a great tool to just look at data, they're predicting within the year I'll hit 1 million.
Wow. And I remember when you got the plaque for 500,000 as being like, I mean, that's a massive milestone. I'm sure you would know the percentages of like how many people actually start a channel and hit that. It's got to be extremely low.
Yeah, it's definitely low in terms of the 100,000 plaque, and then it's 1 million. So it's 100,000 and then 1 million for each of the plaques.
100,000.
Yeah.
How do you keep your head on straight through that? My experience with this kind of stuff, just with engagement and impressions, they can be very impactful on like how you feel, right? I mean, you're putting all this work into something. So you're grinding with the hours, the post-production, you're trying to line up audio and video and make everything enticing, but also meaningful. So it's not just like clickbait, but actually has some substance. And then you put it out there, and sometimes things track really well. Sometimes initially they track well and then they taper off. Sometimes it's the reverse. So how do you keep I guess it's like an eye on the prize kind of mentality when you're putting forth the same amount of effort no matter what, and then the videos, in terms of how they're doing, obviously ebb and flow.
Yeah, and I think that's a big part of it, is you can't let the numbers and data and trolls get to you. I have a lot of people who comment on my videos, and they'll be like, you have no idea what you're doing, you're the worst person in the world. Or I'll do a video where I'm outside hiking, and they'll be like, you're out of breath, like, why don't you get in shape? Or like, I've had comments where people are like, yeah, a couple of years ago you looked a lot skinnier. And just like, there's so much BS on YouTube. But for the trolls specifically, there's a button when you go into your comments, and it's hide user from channel, and basically it blocks them from ever commenting again, and you can get rid of their comments, but they don't know that they're blocked. So they might keep commenting, but their comments will never show up.
Really? I mean, that's kind of a genius feature.
Yeah, it's amazing. Because like,
so
you just have
weird.
a troll. Yeah, you have someone who's like wanting to just talk trash, and you just hide them, and you don't have to deal with it. But it's like one of the things you kind of just have to let that stuff roll off. But it does affect you. Like, obviously seeing that does affect you, and you kind of have to have a thick skin, because you're putting yourself out there for people to comment on whatever it is that you're doing, and everyone's going to have their opinion. And I found, just pushing forward and like having the kind of reasoning to why I want to do a channel, and like my bigger goals, having that set up is a big part of just kind of keeping yourself moving forward, because YouTube is very much long game. Like, you're not getting on this to be successful within a year. You're like looking 5-10 years. And so I started in 2016, and it took me, the first 2 years I got monetized and I made $40 or something like that. So like 2 years.
Don't quit your day job.
Content. Yeah.
It's crazy that people take the time out of their day to do that. I think about it all the time, and it really does blow my mind. I'll put something up because I'm, the same thing. I'm trying to be like content heavy and on a recurring schedule that's consistent, so that people that do find value in what it is can rely on the fact that it's going to be there every week. And then for the counterparts that really are to market and redirect people over to the main channel, the main show, is to just go headstrong through the ebbs and the flows with a consistent production timeline. But in doing so, even on a very, very small level relative to yours, people say stuff where I just kind of laugh. I'm like, wow, really? This person took the time out of their day to try to roast someone that they've never even met in their life. Will probably never even meet them in my life. What a weird thing to do. Like, I just, when you're on the other side of it and you're trying to create stuff, you don't have the time. I don't have time to go log onto YouTube and just scroll through people's channels and shade them for stuff that I know nothing about. It's such a weird thing, but it's your work, right? You're putting your art in the gallery and you're letting people walk through. And you have to care a little bit, because that's going to shape, when it comes from the right people, that's going to shape how you make changes. And those changes can improve things and improve the messaging or the content. And so you do have to listen a little bit. What's your key to the filter there?
I think what I look for is, if people are talking, if people are just talking trash, like, or they're scammers or this and that, like that, you just remove. If people are giving like constructive feedback, like, yeah, I do pay attention to that. And if somebody says like, oh, your audio is off in this video, in this section, I'll look at it and be like, okay, yeah, I did, I just went fast through this, or I didn't edit it properly or something. So I do take it and then I do adjust. And depending on if it's constructive feedback or just somebody who is a really terrible life and they just want to take it out on everyone else. And that's what you find. I mean, there's a lot of people out there that are just out there to cause negativity in the world. And it's probably stemming from something in their life. And it's exhausting. I don't know who would sit there and just like talk trash online on everyone else's videos. Like, you're getting, especially on YouTube, because you're getting content for free. And like, people are saying like, oh, you have too many ads in this video, or, you didn't light this properly, or the audio sounds, garbage, you're a loser. Like, the people that are commenting on that level, it's kind of ridiculous, because it's like, well, you are watching a platform where you're getting free content at any point, and we're producing this basically for free. I mean, obviously there's a creator economy and we've been able to find ways to make money off of it, but you're getting free content on a platform that you have access to for free. So people have like these crazy expectations that...
And you're electing to watch the video, right? I mean, to some degree things are fed to you, sure, but you can press stop, you can get out of it, you can do whatever you want. It's the same thing with social media, right? You're choosing to follow, or you're being fed things, and it's up to you if you want to continue to watch or not. No one's holding you to that. So to do that and then feel some type of way, it's very interesting. How people interact.
It's just a factor in human, it's the way people are sometimes. And so you kind of have to let that stuff, just take it with a grain of salt. But there's plenty of good constructive feedback that you'll get in your comments. And I know who the people are that watch all my content, that comment all the time. And for every like one really bad negative comment, there's hundreds of really positive comments. So it's like, you put more weight on the negative because it affects you, but in reality, it's such a small percentage of like the appreciation that people actually have for your content, and not everyone's commenting. You might get, I'll get hundreds of thousands of views on a video and only like a couple thousand comments. Like, there's a lot more people that got something out of that video. They just didn't choose to comment, because not everyone has to leave a comment on every video.
Right. And in that, you brought up something interesting, which is like this core group right? You know who the people are that are watching all your videos, and you start to, I'm sure, at your level, begin to build relationships in some context, right? Because they're providing feedback and you're utilizing it to make changes, and you see them engaging with or sharing videos that you're making. How crucial is the development of a core group of people when you're beginning to establish your channel?
I mean, I think every channel will establish a core group. It's just a matter of, like, there's always going to be a group that's going to watch everything, and that group is going to grow as the channel grows, and you'll kind of find your baseline. And this is where, you'll get this many views because you have this core audience. And the community aspect is tough on YouTube because just videos with comments, there's not a whole lot of engagement besides just commenting back. So, like, there's people that comment and I'll comment back, but I get thousands of comments every day. So it's really hard to do that now and to keep up with it. Like, it's tough. Whereas there's people that now interact on Twitter, for example, and then you can go back and forth on Twitter. And YouTube's also added some additional features, like kind of like their Patreon model, which is called memberships.
Yep.
And that's something I haven't personally turned on, but that is something I'm thinking about, because that group of members will pay to have more access and have, like, behind the scenes or some different things that you can give as like a bonus, but it's also a place where you can have more of a conversation back and forth and not be in the flood of comments in the bottom of each video. And so it's, like, the core group is kind of essential. I mean, it's something that's going to happen no matter what channel. Like, you're going to find your core group, especially if you're a channel that has, like, a creator that's at the center of the channel. So,
right.
Like, my channel is centered around me. There's definitely channels out there that are more just like broad, like a documentary channel that just has a bunch of random videos. That's not going to build a same core audience because there's not that connection with the person on the other side of the camera. Because right. I'm sitting on camera and I'm always talking to camera, people build this relationship, even if it is just one-sided, because they're just seeing me all the time. But that's how you build that core group, is like you are developing this relationship with people because they see you and they're interacting with you and they're watching everything that you say and do.
When you look at those initial numbers as a channel is growing, if we go back to kind of that 0 to 1,000 people, I think as someone who's in that space now for this channel, it's easy to see a low amount of people that are viewing something and think that you're getting everything wrong, right? Like, well, this is just bad because otherwise it would be tracking really well and tons of people would be watching it. Would you agree, though, that within that group of people, whatever amount of people are watching it, if that number is staying consistent or growing even a little bit, video over video over video over video, and your channel's correlating with the growth, even if it's small, that is a good sign, a sign that connection is happening and that's something it can grow from?
Yeah, I definitely believe that, because think of that. So, like, let's say you have 100 views a video. Like, put yourself in a room with 100 people. It completely changes the dynamic of what that number means. It's 100 actual people who are sitting there viewing your content. And if you're getting that consistently, that means you are actually impacting a group of 100 people or 50 people or 200 people, whatever it is. And even if the number seems small in comparison to, like, all the videos on YouTube, you still are having an impact. And the whole thing with YouTube is it takes time to build. Like, it's not going to happen overnight. Some channels do take off, but I almost think it's better to go through the paces and actually have a channel that takes a little bit longer to build that momentum, because you learn so much when you first are producing on YouTube. And those people, even if it's a few, you're still going to be getting some feedback from that. And you're going to start learning what you want to do with your channel, which direction you want to push it. If you were to have a video that took off and got 5 million views, your first video on YouTube, you would have no idea what to do with that amount of attention. And right. There are channels where this happens, where they explode, they have massive boost. Maybe a big creator featured them in their video and drove a bunch of attention to them. The issue is, what do you do with that attention now that you have the eyeballs? Having a channel right. where it's more of a sustained growth over time, you're learning how to deal with the attention and what works and what doesn't, and what you should be producing, and how to use your camera, your lighting, your audio, like all the actual technical aspects. You're building those skills at the same time as dealing with what the content is. Because right. like, as a YouTube creator, or any creator doing video online, it's such a big ask, because you have to wear so many hats. In a production company, You might be just doing camera. On YouTube, you're doing camera, light, audio. You have to come up with your story. You have to edit. You have to figure out how to distribute that, how to do your title, your thumbnail, your description, and how to deal with all the feedback that you're getting, and like how to do that video after video and make it so that it's a channel that people want to keep coming back to.
It's actually really motivating to hear that, because it's kind of like, I mean, I draw parallels to fitness a lot, but you have to learn how to move before you can learn how to get strong, right? And you know this from, you train all the time, you're active, you go outside. You could extrapolate this to anything, to getting involved in hiking, to mountaineering, to overlanding. You have to just take those initial steps that teach you a little bit about the mechanics of what you're doing. Because if, I mean, I think about this channel, right? If this video, let's say, hit 1 million views, I would have a lot of people that would be confused about what I was offering, because it isn't a channel about YouTube growth or about film production. And if they came on through that window and then found, you know, conversations about artificial intelligence or how to increase your VO2 max, those 1 million people that could at a later date come across at the right time might come too early and then be confused and not know what is going on. And so that refinement process of over and over making the mistakes and the errors and getting the, like you said, things like the thumbnail down, how to write a good title, how to write a good description, things that I actually just watch and learn from you over and over and try to emulate. You can't learn that too fast. Almost.
Yeah. I mean, it's just like fitness. Like, you can't just jump in the deep end and run a marathon. It's not going to happen. Or like go climb a mountain. I'm actually prepping right now to go climb a mountain in Canada that I've been prepping for months. But the actual skills of mountaineering, it took me like multiple climbs with like highly trained professionals to learn what I need to learn to be able to like take on different mountains and be comfortable taking on different mountains. And so it's, I think it's everything in life. Like there is this kind of period where you need to like focus on the craft and figure out what it is you're doing. It's kind of like the seasons of being a YouTuber. Like you have your, discovery season. And then once you figure that out, you get into, your growth season, and that's where you just buckle down and hustle. And there was a period, I want to say maybe it's 2018, 2019, somewhere around there, where I was like 2 videos a week religiously, like just going for it. And I knew exactly what I was doing. And I was pumping out content, and I saw my numbers explode. And then, I had children. I have a daughter who's 2.5. My son is 7 months now. And so like, it's completely changed. Like I don't have the bandwidth to work from like 5 a.m. till midnight every day anymore. Like I used to, because I would do production company stuff, work with my wife, and then I would do YouTube on the side, and I would work 7 days a week. And I did that for a couple of years. I killed myself. But to do that, go through that process, now I have the momentum going where I can take a step back and take weekends off and, wake up at 5 with my kids, and then at 8 o'clock go in the office and be done at 5. So I have very strict kind of schedule now that I have more going on in my life. But you can't approach each season and be like, try to be an expert at it. So you can't start your channel and be like, okay, I'm going to be, I'm going to know exactly what I'm going to do, and I'm going to be able to get millions of views on every video, and I'm just going to put out, tons and tons of content without actually going through that and figuring out what you're doing first.
Right. When, I guess this isn't devil's advocate, but let's say this growth process, right? We're establishing that there's a timeline here, and it's longer probably than most people want to accept, but there's this underlying benefit to that, right? That you understand the process, you can get your systems down, you can decide when and where to bring on additional help if it warrants it, because in the beginning you're wearing all the hats, you're doing all these things. What do you tell someone who is motivated, right? They want to do this, it's underway, their process is going, but they're not making any money doing it. And they're also grappling with the fact that it's going to take a long time for that to become money generating, revenue generating thing. What should they be focusing on to help guide them through those initial phases?
I mean, the biggest thing is first figuring out, what you need out of, like, say, if you need to make money and you're not making money off of your channel, Well, you need to figure out, well, what's the bare minimum you need to be able to live, and then how much time is that going to take? So it's really coming down to like budgeting your time and figuring out, okay, I need to work, this job, this many hours to be able to, pay my monthly bills and be able to keep moving forward. That gives me this amount of time. Now with that time, you just need to have more of a schedule and actually like focus on creating videos versus like watching YouTube educators or sitting around reading books or, doing all these things that people say that are going to help you grow your channel, when the reality is you need to make videos. That's the biggest thing. You just need to keep making videos and not think so big and not think I need 500 videos, this, and this. Instead, make a video, see how it, release it, and then figure out, okay, how can I make my next video better? What's one thing I can improve? And if you just focus on one thing with each video, maybe it's your lighting, maybe it's your audio, maybe it's the way you're adding B-roll into your footage, maybe it's your storytelling. Like there's so many components, but try to just focus on one improvement each video. And then within a year, you'd be surprised at how far your channel will go. Right. And, maybe by that point, you'll be able to step away from the other jobs that you have to do to make ends meet and be able to take on, just focus on being a creator full time. Because there are a lot of opportunities, even with smaller creators, to make money off of this platform. And that's, it doesn't take much to be able to get yourself in a position where you can start earning off your channel.
One thing that I found interesting that you've spoken about on, I forget his name, Dave
Mays.
Yes, Dave Mays' podcast, was about foregoing opportunity, that you've had opportunities to work with brands and you've actually made the conscious decision not to, which might sound absolutely ludicrous for someone who's just starting out their channel, because why would you ever turn down the opportunity to build brand equity and partner with someone who already is an established business or company, leverage your platform, create more opportunity for yourself? So maybe you can touch a little bit on why that's a conscious decision and maybe how that has or has not maintained as you've tripled the size of your subscriber base.
Yeah. When it comes to something like a brand deal or, an opportunity to work with a company, every time you're saying yes to doing that thing, you're saying no to something else because your time is limited. I know like my process, how long it typically takes me to make a video. And so if I say yes to like this sponsored video around, say, a product or something, well, that might pull me away from the goals that I actually have. And so I'm selective with who I work with because I've gotten my channel to a point where I can be selective. There are multiple opportunities coming my way, and it's just I think through, like, if I say yes to this, what is that gonna appear on my channel? Like, how does it look being with my niche and what I'm doing? And then also, how much time is that taking me away from the things that I actually want to do? Because I have a whole list of videos that I want to create, but I also have, emails daily of people that want me to talk about their products or try something new. And I've been in these periods where I've said yes to a bunch of things, and then I'm like, well, I can't make any of the videos I personally want to make. And then I'm like, okay, now I have a couple months where I'm like focused on products and this and that. And, right now is kind of that period where this starts happening, because September, October is kind of like tech time before, November, December. So all these products are coming out. So I have like a couple new cameras sitting here that, I have one that I have to shoot today and tomorrow for a release that's happening Wednesday. So now my week is basically shot working with this one camera, which, yeah, I do want to work with this camera. But because I said yes to this, now my entire week is just focused on that, and I can't do some of the other things that I might have wanted to do. And it all goes back to, like, right now my time is limited because I have this more strict schedule with kids and a production company. But when I was younger and I didn't have kids, I would work all the way through the night. I would probably get this product, make a video, edit all of tonight, be done by like 2:00, get on to something else tomorrow. So like you just have to figure out where you are in your life and what it means when you say yes to something and what that's going to, not allow you to do.
How do you manage that now? Because 2 kids that's a real deal. I mean, your life is overhauled, right? On top of that, you both moved, so it's a new city. It's another kid too, since I think we last spoke about children, but these are not small changes. These are not like, oh, you picked up a shift on the weekend and now you're adjusting your sleep schedule. I mean, this is like everything in your life has changed. Thankfully, your channel is at a place where you can make these kind of decisions without, the entire cost of everything that you're doing going out the window. And you have another stable business that you both still run. So when those changes did start happening, or you you figured out how to handle having one child and then you knew the other one was on the way, what adjustments are made within your production schedule and what you are willing to do and not do in terms of partnerships?
Yeah, it just comes down to being more intentional with time. So like I have a set start and end time for the most part, and then like I don't work weekends. And so like I've set up these boundaries where in the morning and the evenings I'm with my kids, and then weekends is obviously all family time. And so I have these like hours that I can work, and I just need to be able to schedule that time and be more intentional with everything that I'm doing. But then on top of that, I still have I don't just like make videos here in my office and just around where I'm living. Like I actually go and do these bigger projects where I'll go travel to Canada, or I'm talking about going down to Bolivia and doing a climb down there and a big project around that. And I'm working with another guy who wants to start doing these NGO films. And it's like everything that I'm taking on that's a bigger project, it's just going to strip away. So I got to have this balance where, I'm going to be taking more time off, and then I have to focus when I'm actually working solely on those projects and not kind of get rid of all the rest of the noise. And part of that could be building a team. I don't have a team specifically yet. I have a couple editors that I work with here and there. I have one guy that's edited a few of my videos recently, and we'll probably start sending him more videos depending on what's going on. But one of the big things might be building out a team so I can still do everything without having to have as much time commitment to actually physically doing it. But the other part of it is I might just be stepping back and not making as much content. I mean, the beauty of having my channel is that I don't have a ton of overhead. Like I work out of my house. I don't have an office. I don't have this huge team where I have to pay all these different employees to do different things. Like it's just me. And so if I can scale back, well, it's not like I have to keep everything at a certain pace to be able to, keep the income at a certain level. There's a lot more flexibility when you don't build a massive team. So That's kind of the balance that I'm playing right now is, do I bring on a big team and make more content, or do I just make a little bit less content and make a little bit less money?
Well, and there is the benefit too that the channel is like a evergreen channel, right? So you could you could never be on YouTube, find out about it this week, go on, discover Jeven, and go, oh my God, this stuff is so useful. It's speaking to me 100% about the channel that I'm trying to create, or learning video or lighting, or these products, this one versus that one. You could have made that video 6 years ago, but it's going to view and hit as if it were made today, right? So the investments that you put forth and the effort into the production and the library building now just sits there.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and that's a strategy that works super well on YouTube is focusing on evergreen content, which is, content that can last years into the future. I actually just put out a video over the weekend it's like an hour and a half, basically course on how to do YouTube. And that video I anticipate will be one that's going to last a long time because it's very much like the basics of how to start a channel and grow it, and basically everything that I've done, like all the different strategies. And it's not stuff that's time sensitive. There's what's called tentpole topics, and that's where like something is very trendy at that moment. And for me, a lot of that is like new products. So like, let's say a new camera came out. If I did like just a quick overview of that camera, that's a tentpole. I'm going to get a ton of traffic. It's all going to come in at once. And then the video is going to die off, and then it's not going to get views much longer. Some products do, but I just did a drone a couple weeks ago, got like 300,000 views on the video, and now it's getting like nothing. And so those videos go up and they drop. Whereas evergreen, which is the majority of what I've been focused on my channel, just grows over time. I had a video that had like 20,000 views, which is a lot, but in the grand scheme of things, it's, you know, it's okay for like having a video on my channel for a year, and it was like a good topic. But come, you know, 200-300 day mark, it took off, and now that video has over 1 million views. Wow. And like that video is now getting like thousands of views a week, and it's just going to keep growing, and it's over 2 years old. And so my focus has been a lot on my main channel to be a lot of just evergreen content, so that if I do step away, it's not like the channel's just going to die. It's going to keep going. It'll obviously have a little bit of a drop off, and over time it will get less and less. But with this style of content, if you're producing content that's kind of timeless, then the channel will keep growing, and you don't have to put so much effort into it at every season of life. Like sometimes you can pull away, and then sometimes you can, you know, if you have more time, you can put more videos out. And like right now, my production company is slow, so I'm focused on making a lot of videos. And then when my production company gets busy, well, I'll step away. A couple months ago, I had 18 days straight shoot, so I couldn't make videos. And so I, you know, wasn't posting as much. And it's not like I had this huge drop off. It's just I didn't have any big hits that first couple weeks of that month. And then as I started making more videos, I saw the numbers go back up.
Would you say that there's an advantage to having, like, in essence, it's a product mix, right? So you have some videos that are evergreen, they'll stay on the channel, might take a little more forethought to come up with something that's that attention grabbing but useful for today, but also maybe 5-6 years from now. And the construction of those might take a little more brain power. Like if you're creating a how to start on YouTube, I mean, you really need to iron out the different levels of that discussion and make sure that it's understandable for someone who's coming on, versus something quicker that's like, okay, products are always going to be made. Companies are always going to want to have them reviewed, marketed, and then brought to people. So now you start to see like there's a couple different types of videos that can run through the channel to kind of peak engagement of different types. Is that something that you focus on, or that you would even suggest maybe someone with a newer channel should be thinking about?
Yeah, because there's a lot of people in my niche that just focus on products. And I think like where products bring in new people and they're kind of the new trendy thing, the evergreen content is where I've really seen the success on my channel. And that's what's bringing in, you know, the people that actually care about wanting to watch video to video. They're not just there to see the new product. Right. So how I see it is, if you're someone who's going to be doing like products, tutorials, guides, whatever, is like hitting those trendy topics. So for me, it's new cameras, it's new drones, whatever. Those are like the topical at that moment, but then mixing that up with evergreen content in between, because I think if you're just focused on, say, evergreen, it might you might not get as much attention to that, or you're going to build a smaller following. Whereas the top products and those will bring in new eyeballs that might not have found your channel, but because of that, if they watch one video, they're going to get served to your other videos, and they might get sucked into your ecosystem and watch more of your content. And I see that happening a lot with like drones, for example. So whenever I do a drone video, I get a ton of traffic. Like, you know, the new Mavic 3 came out months ago. I mean, maybe, I don't know how long ago that was now. Maybe almost a year ago. But that video generated like 400,000 views at the launch. Like it was a massive video for my channel. And then a lot of those people I saw start filtering to my other videos that are more evergreen. And overall, it just, my channel elevated each time, you know, a big product like that comes out.
So do you feel pulled to, like, when something like that happens, you find success with a type of video, do you feel a pull to like, I just got to start reviewing drones?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough because I've seen channels do this where they find what's working and they're really pushed down that path, and then now they become just a drone channel, which is great, but you have to be thinking long term always. Like 5-10 years, are you just going to be wanting to talk about every new drone that's coming out and then talk about how to use that drone and how to do this and how to do that? Like some people, yeah, that might be their passion, but in other creators out there, they might have just seen something that's worked and then pulled that thread and kept going down that path without thinking, taking a step back and looking at the channel and being like, well, is this really the path I want to go down? Because like for me personally, I want to do documentaries kind of content. I want to tell stories. I don't want to just talk about cameras and filmmaking techniques. I think all of that's important to tell stories. And so a lot of like my focus and a lot of what I've been shifting is away from, just cameras, how to do YouTube and just like little tips and tricks, to more establishing like how to be a video creator that can actually tell a story and make something that has more of an impact. And personally, I actually have another channel, which is all stories, and it's no tutorials, no nothing. And so I'm starting this process over at zero. I obviously get a little bit of a boost because I do have a core audience that likes that kind of content. So that channel has already grown to like 7,000 subscribers, but that is a completely different style of channel that I'm going down, and it's a completely different kind of trajectory that I want to go. And it could, because long term, obviously my main channel, I love what I'm doing here, but it's not the only thing I want to do. I'm thinking 5-10 years down the road, like I don't want to just be talking about the newest product that came out. I think it's something that can be a part of what I do, but it's not everything that I want to do.
Well, that's one thing that I've always thought is cool about your channel is you tie in this outdoorsman element to what you're doing, which is pretty, I mean, it's unique to me. I don't know all of the creators out there that could be putting together similar stuff, but to explain videography and shots and style and everything told through an overlanding experience, that's pretty cool, right? Because on one side of it, on the personal side, you're getting to go do something you love. Anyway, you just happen to be telling a story about it while you go do it. So that's like a very cool aspect of being an entrepreneur, is that you control how you utilize your time. And that's something that I feel very comfortable assuming you'd probably go do anyway, right? Yeah. Like, how cool would a trip like that be? Bring a couple cameras, and all of a sudden you walk away with this video that, if you're not in it for the film tips, you still get a really cool like recap of this phenomenal thing. When you do that though, do you notice when you make videos like that that there's a decrease in viewership or a decrease in engagement, not due to quality, but because it is a departure from the core content?
Yeah. So it's interesting because I've been trying to make both sides of what I want to do work on one channel, and I did that for years. So you'll see like a mountain climbing video on my channel, and then I would do a tutorial and whatever. But that's not how YouTube works. Like YouTube, you can't think of your channel like a channel like Discovery Channel or National Geographic, where it has a bunch of different shows under it. You have to think of a channel like a show. It's like one specific thing, and that's what you're building, one audience. And so if somebody comes into one of my videos, say it's an overlanding video, has nothing to do with like tutorials or anything or cameras, it's just literally a cool experience going through, Utah in the winter, trying to get through there with my Jeep. That's an interesting story, yes, but the audience that comes in for that might not care about my YouTube tutorial on how to be a YouTuber, or my video on 5 ways to use your camera to get cinematic B-roll. Like, those are two different audiences. And so I tried to keep it all on one channel for a long time, but it doesn't work. So I actually have 2 channels. My main channel, which is just my name, Jeven Dovey, is really catered towards education around filmmaking and being a YouTuber and creator, and pushing more into the idea of like, well, what do you do with that? With those skills? Like, what do you do with that? And that's kind of where I'm positioning my content. I have a second channel. It's now all of those stories. It's called Project Discover Earth, and it's literally just like a show where I tell interesting stories from these places I'm going and exploring. And so my most recent one is I flew up to Alaska to find an old World War II military base, and I had to kayak 5 miles across the bay, then hike up and over this hiking area to get to the base, and then I told the history of it. So it has like 2 completely different things. And that's one thing when it comes to YouTube, is you really have to niche down and come up with like who the core audience is for that channel, and only make content for that audience. Because if you start straying too far, you're bringing in people that don't care. Those people will watch one of your videos. They'll see it. Like, so the person that comes in for a climbing video, if they watch a tutorial, they'll watch 10 seconds, they'll click off, they'll say, I don't want to watch this. Now it's giving YouTube bad data. Now that's hurting your channel versus growing your channel.
So really niching down to that core audience is the bread and butter, at least for growth.
Yep.
But you're
If
doing a
if your
good job
focus
of.
is if your focus is growth and making money and building a business, you want to niche down and you want to figure out what that audience wants and then produce content for that audience. And then on top of that, you'll find, what types of products they like. So you might do affiliate sales through products. You'll have sponsors that fit perfectly with that audience, and the sponsors will pay to be in your videos. But if you don't know what that audience is, then you can't build that business.
And you bring up an interesting point about like going to that core group of people, because you actually changed the direction of your channel pretty early on, right? Because you and Rachel started doing a travel blog. You had the film sense. You also both just loved to travel, liked traveling, and started to produce content around that. But there was a point where you realized you were going to take it a different direction, no longer do the travel blog and stuff. How did you make that choice? Because I feel like that's probably a decision that a lot of people will be faced with at some point in their channel, is deciding what aspects of what they're doing is working well and what aspects need to be adjusted to help with growth, strategy, fulfillment, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I think early on in like a YouTuber's career, you can make changes. So when I made that switch, my channel wasn't that big yet. It was sub 100,000, definitely, because I was doing tutorials. What really took my channel and blew it up was when I started doing tutorials around the DJI Mavic Pro, the initial one, like years ago. And at that time, I was doing a mix, and then I started pushing away from the travel. And I think early on, you can make those changes. But if I was to do that now with a channel my size, it wouldn't work. Like my channel would just have this huge drop off. And I've seen creators do this where they completely pivot. It's doable, but you're going to go through a couple of years of pain because you're going to have this huge number. You're going to have like hundreds of thousands of subscribers, but nobody actually cares about your content. So the algorithm is trying to refine the audience. And the thing with YouTube that I think a lot of people like don't realize is that the algorithm plays so much into your success, because the majority of my views come from YouTube suggesting my content. So that's on homepage when you first log in, that's on browse, it's on suggested, so the videos that are on the sidebar or what pop up next after a video. All of that is where probably 80%, if not more, of my traffic comes from, and only like 15 to 20% comes from search anymore. And so like people do search, they search how to vlog, my video will pop up number one. I have the number one term for how to vlog right now. But that video, where it does get a ton of traffic from search, still the majority of my traffic is coming from suggested and browse. And so if you are one niche and then you try to transfer to another niche, you're basically having to retrain the algorithm to find the audience, because all YouTube cares about is viewer satisfaction, is satisfying the viewer. So like all YouTube cares about is making sure that you as the viewer is excited about the content that they're suggesting to you, because you as the viewer, if you are happy, you're going to watch more content. And that's the kind of key metric that you have to think about when it comes to growing a YouTube channel is duration. How long somebody is watching your video and how long they're staying on YouTube. Now, YouTube gives us the data on your average view duration per video, but they don't give us the data on session duration, which is something that is important, but it's not a metric that we have access to. But that means if someone comes in and watches one of my videos, I want them to go and then watch 5 more of my videos at once, because that's telling YouTube that this channel is getting people to come in and binge, and they're going to keep pushing my videos, because the more of my videos that get pushed to audiences that are similar to the people that are currently watching, the more that people are staying on YouTube.
Right. And at the end of the day, that's what, I mean, the channels exist and they have the size that they do because YouTube wants people there being exposed to advertisements, being exposed to media that they stay and watch and share and send other people to get other people on the platform. It makes total sense. I'm sure that that's got to be a tough thing to manage is the length of something, because with more time you have more opportunity to explain. With less time it's the opposite, but somewhere between there you have to decide the amount of time necessary to tell the story that you're trying to tell but not so long that you're including a bunch of filler that doesn't make any sense for the person.
Yeah.
Have
Depends
you
on the style of
experimented? What's that?
I was going to say, it depends on the style of content and what it is that your goal is with each video. So like experimenting with different lengths of videos on my channel, because I do a lot of like guides and tutorials and really in-depth learning, I can do longer videos and they perform. But if on my second channel, which is all stories, I can't stretch that out with a bunch of filler, because with a story, you want to be concise and you want to keep people engaged. And if you just have a bunch of filler, people are going to click off. So it really comes down to what kind of content you're producing. And you'll find channels out there that are like somebody camping in the woods, and it'll be an hour-long video, and then you're like, how do people watch this? But apparently they do, because those channels are being served up more and more.
Yeah.
And you go down this rabbit hole of watching this kind of content. It's like very relaxing, like someone sitting there cooking with like a campfire, and like it's a 45-minute video, and you're just like, people sit here and watch this, and it has 4 million views. So clearly people are watching it, because if people weren't, YouTube wouldn't keep serving that video.
Right. I think there's some, I don't know if it's a market for this, but like background information, background infotainment is probably what I'd call it. Like Lauren does this a lot. She'll watch, these girls make vlogs of clothing hauls or like skincare tutorials, stuff like that. And she'll be doing something like maybe an assignment or packing for a trip or something like that. And the videos, they're just running in the background, because it's kind of entertaining to tune in every once in a while. Go, oh, okay, cool, I know what they're talking about, and then go about your day. And I wonder if those videos are really catering towards this. I'm not actually watching the video, I'm doing something else, but the video's there to give me background noise, fun tidbits, things I can pay a little bit of attention to or not. But when you think about the metrics side of it, that video is running the whole way, front to back, the entire time that they're doing XYZ. And maybe it's so exciting that when they're done, they don't exit out, they just pause it. And then the next time that they're packing for a trip or you're vacuuming or something like that, you pop it back on. And so I could see how maybe some of those videos do so well in that space because of the congruency of watch time. There's not the, okay, I'm trying to get this one tip out of a 15-minute video. Where is it? And you're clicking around, and then you get it, and you're done. So it's that. But I laugh at that, too. I'm like, I don't need to watch this guy build an outhouse for, 15 hours here in the middle of Alaska.
Well, but I have a buddy who built an igloo, like super interesting, but it's like a 20 or 30-minute video, and he got like a couple million views like overnight with it. And it's wild. Like it's so unique and different that you're like, I want to watch this. But because he's got length to it, it's given YouTube all the right data, and it's just a very interesting video. So I think a lot of people do like put it as background. Like I know for me personally, like I have videos playing all the time when I'm doing other stuff, and it's around topics that I'm interested, whether it's a podcast or it's something that's just interesting, but they're more long form stories. Like I put them in the background all the time, and I know I'm giving YouTube that data that's like, oh, he's watching this content for 40, 50 minutes. We're going to serve him more of this kind of content.
And it's personal, like I will do this with, I'll be working on something on my computer, but then I'll be playing some just like a surf videos that are then on a playlist, and they're just kind of running and suggesting more surf content, which I'm not really even watching. But in the few moments that I look up to take a break from work, you're hit with something very visually spectacular that's cool, that's something you love to do. So if you got mountain biking running in the background or some really cool overland trip, you just get to experience that a little bit at a time, which I'm not going to turn on the TV and have like, some sitcom running in the background. I don't care. It doesn't interest me at all. So it does provide infotainment and media and content for people that maybe are a little more like active. Like maybe the person watching that video of someone at this campfire, they're not really a TV watcher, but they are an outdoors person. And so being able to watch other people do things outside, maybe tips that they might find useful, it becomes very engaging and more personal than television.
Yeah, it's like a window into someone else's life. And
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of these videos that I'm finding, it's not even like they're giving tips or they're talking. There's usually no talking even. It's just literally watching someone go through like the night of camping. And it's all kind of just ASMR style where it's quiet. You're just hearing the rain, you're hearing the firecracker, the file crackle, and all of that. And so I think like, what you're saying is, yeah, people put this in the background, or it's it's stuff they can put on their TV while they're cooking dinner or something, and they don't have to pay attention to it, but it's kind of running, and it's something they enjoy. Like it's something that
Yes.
speaks to them. And if it's a creator that's constantly putting out this content, and you're seeing this creator, well, you're building that personal relationship. So you're like,
Yep.
oh, what did I have a buddy who does hiking videos like this, where they're very long, and you get to watch the entire hike, and they're shot beautifully. But as a viewer, you might be like, oh, I wonder, where Craig is hiking right now. Like, is he in the Alps or is he down in Patagonia? You put it on and you could just play in the background as, you're this beautiful hiking video, and you get to watch someone hike somewhere that you would want to go hike.
Do you
And I
think that
we've built this opportunity where we have access to, like, any person can create content for these very unique niches that only maybe a small group of people would be interested in, but that small group of people is not small, like in the world. Like you're talking
right
just
globally?
a subsect of people that like hiking, but that the numbers of people actually watch that is huge, even if it feels like it's just a small kind of niche. And you could do this with any style. You said surfing, but people do this with overlanding. They do this with hiking. They do this with basically anything where you can set a camera and show people going through the process of actually doing something. There's content out there.
The strangest thing to me is the ASMR eating, like
Yeah.
the Japanese and Chinese videos of girls just eating heinous foods. I'm like, how is there? And it's not a small viewership. I mean, this is millions and millions of people watching these videos of people just eating food, gross foods, crunchy foods. Like, what an odd spectacle that you get from YouTube that you just would not know that it's out there, that people are enjoying that kind of stuff. When did you start to see that ASMR style video start to peak?
I mean, I think a lot of those. So it's interesting. The ASMR for food, I think, was born from like South Korean culture, where the way that their culture is, they wanted to like have someone to eat with when they were by themselves, and so they would put up a video of someone eating, and it's kind of like you're hanging out with someone eating. But that's turned into these different kind of extremes where people are like, how much food can you eat in this this giant bowl, or like the biggest crab I could find, I ate this. And so it's now become a spectacle, and it's also become a fetish for people. So like there's the whole spectrum here where it might have started out as just like somebody wanted to have a friend to eat with, and now it's become like this whole sexualized thing where you're just watching these people eat food in a seductive way, which is interesting because YouTube is actually putting a stop to that. And anything that is deemed as like seductive or could be arousing in any way when it comes to like food content or like other styles of content where people kind of sexualize it, they're now going to prevent that from being on the platform because it has become this problem. We'll see how it's implemented, but this was something that was just kind of announced the last couple weeks.
Yeah, there's definitely this is a strange window, but as someone who consumes just a lot of sports content across all disciplines, whether it be Olympic sports, surfing, skateboarding, mountain biking, there is a niche of, I guess I would call it like perverted sports content, where you're watching sports, but they're provided in a seductive way, almost like B-roll sports footage that wasn't, like, you wouldn't know was being shot. And it's like one of those gray areas where the content itself, probably algorithmically, isn't wrong. It's sports content, but the way that it's shot crosses that line. And so how do you identify that? How do you police that? Should you I guess that's a bigger question, is should you restrict viewership on certain types of videos What are your thoughts on that, actually, in terms of censorship with YouTube? As someone who provides very useful content that would never be at the risk of being censored, but a platform like that that's open to any and all creators to create whatever they want, what are your thoughts when channels are shut down or where they're silenced? Because on one side of it, that is it's their income, right? Like for a lot of these people, the channels have grown to a space where that is providing their income, their well-being. Perhaps they're not working in any other capacity. So shutting that down is also, in a way, like firing someone.
Mm-hmm.
But what are your thoughts on censorship?
I mean, it's an interesting battle because you have to look at it from YouTube's perspective. And what happens is if this kind of content's available and advertisers are being put in front of these videos, well, your advertisers might pull out if they don't believe that they should be seeing their ads in front of this content that is kind of this gray area that might or might not be on there. And so it's tough because like obviously we want to have freedom to post whatever we want, but at the same time, it is a private company.
Right.
You know, you are having to play by their rules. And, you know, with kids, I don't want my kids going on and seeing that kind of content and being fed that through the algorithm because they were, you know, watching something that was similar. And because this content has high viewership, it's now getting picked up in the algorithm. It may be a volleyball video, but now it's actually not because they're zooming in on specific body parts while someone's jumping. And so it's actually not a volleyball video. It's become something different. And I mean, I think there is a level of, there needs to be some rules to be able to produce content in this free way where anybody can access it at any time. It's just how do you police that, and where do you draw the line is kind of where the issue is.
It's so hard because it kind of goes back to like your bad actors comment in the beginning. Like there's just people that want, you know, for whatever reason, they're motivated to increase negativity in the world or just kind of ruffle feathers, right? Trolls are a great example of this. Like they just don't have that moral element that's like, hey, maybe there's something better to do with your time here, or the pain that this could inflict on someone. And so, yeah, they do. Like the volleyball video is a great example. You watch sports content, algorithm feed you sports content, but it's feeding you a high video or a high traffic video that isn't because the camera angles have been changed. Then you have, a child who's on YouTube, plays volleyball, looks up volleyball videos, and then they're hit with this. So that is, if it were a business, it would be like going in to buy a hamburger and instead you're sold like an adult magazine. And you're like, wait, that doesn't really make sense. I came in here to have lunch. And if that can't be fixed, then that's a problem. Because if you drew this out to any other setting in the world, that would stop right away, right? The police would show up the same day and they'd close the business down. You can't operate a business like that. Because of the way YouTube is structured, it kind of happens. And then you have to have a debate about what is the content actually. And that's all happening very fast, right? There's not enough people, I'm sure, at YouTube to form committees that could go through every single video that's ever been made and come up with a solution here. So it'll be really interesting to see how, as more creators have been taken off the platform, what the civil backlash will or won't be for that, and then what kind of adjustments will be made within the company as a whole, and then how that'll affect all creators, right?
Yeah, because I mean, when you think of anything happening at YouTube when it comes to these kind of topics, you have to think at scale. I mean, the amount of videos being uploaded every day is like, you just can't even imagine how much content it is and how many hours of content's being uploaded and how many creators are starting a channel every day. Like the numbers just blow your mind when you actually break it down. And so, yeah, YouTube does have this problem where people can produce whatever they want and upload it, and it's at this scale where they physically can't have people look through every video. It just doesn't work. So but if they do allow this content on the platform, well, advertisers might stop wanting to advertise, and then and then viewers might stop wanting to come watch content. So you have this battle of you want this platform that's free and open that people can upload anything, but you also want to make sure that you're keeping those people happy and retaining viewership, and also being able to make it a profitable company for both YouTube and all these creators. Because the reason that we're on here creating and we're so excited about being able to use this platform is that it's a free platform that we can put up videos up for free and get paid for it, which is crazy to think about because nothing existed before YouTube that allowed you to do this.
I wonder, I'd like to hear your opinion on, I guess when we're talking about these like passive kind of voyeuristic videos of people watching other people do things, it almost feels like in a way we're on the brink of this next generation of entertainment. And it's almost like all the different pieces exist in the solar system. Like you have the virtual reality aspects, you have Meta putting all their resources and hands on deck into the creation of this virtual space. You have a clear change in a large section of viewers moving towards just watching people be, essentially. Mm-hmm. Inevitably, these things converge, right? And what do you think that space will look like over the next, 20 years?
It's interesting because the whole VR world and meta world, it's still foreign, like so foreign to me, even though I've produced content for a VR space and I've worked with YouTube on this. Like I don't know how it's going to become widespread adopted. Like I think there's definitely use cases where like this world will exist, but like personally, I don't want to just be in a computer all the time experiencing something else. But at the same time, if you want to go climb Mount Everest, well, there's going to be a direct access to do that without leaving your home, which is kind of crazy to think about. Like you could go hang out at base camp, and there'll probably be with like Starlink and everything coming. Think about it, 20, 30 years, you'll be able to live stream into anywhere in the world and just put on some headsets or even glasses at that point. And just be like, oh yeah, I'm hanging out in the middle of Ecuador right now in the jungle, and I can kind of experience what this is. I mean, I don't know in terms of like how much that's going to impact. Like, are people going to want to be in the space? For me personally, I like actually physically going places and being outdoors. Right. But at the same time, like you can only go to so many places, so you'll have access to a lot just being at your home.
Well, and on that same note, you like to go out and create. You like to go out, one. But you also like to create content about going and doing that. I would imagine there's people that would love to go out, but maybe they can't, right? Mm-hmm. Like physically, or don't possess the resources or the availability or time to go and do that. So it almost seems like there could be this point where, you think about yourself in another 15 years, how insanely talented of a creator you will be. More so than where you are today, right? So the skill set keeps getting better and better and better. Maybe companies partner with creators because of your ability to tell stories, to capture the essence of an experience and then deliver it to people in a way that they actually want to stick around and watch it, and have you curate these experiences. Like, that would be a really interesting space where, because I'm like you, right? I want to go out and do it too. Yeah. I don't want to watch a video about going surfing in Nicaragua. I want to fly to Nicaragua, and I want to go surfing. But I also don't want to watch a video about someone at a campfire for 2 hours. There's millions of people who do. Will those same people want to become like adventurous in a way and start to, maybe you venture beyond the campsite and you start to do more extreme, like curated virtual reality experiences where the YouTube creator now has another avenue to go about in terms of work or creation, because you can bring to life these experiences that you kind of have to have the know-how of doing it to be able to speak to it properly.
Yeah. I think it's going to definitely connect the world even more than it is now, and like people will have access to crazy amounts of information and experiences, and I think there will be a form of entertainment in this way. And I think this is also something where being that I've traveled to lots of countries and had these different experiences, it's completely changed the way that I think about life and what's important and what's not important. But a lot of those changes don't come from being home. It comes from actually physically going through something,
Yes.
and experiencing things and seeing how people live on the other side of the planet and having conversations with people on the other side of the planet. And I think, the opportunity with this whole world that's we're building in the digital space, there's going to be part of it where, yeah, you're going to be able to access these stories and people are going to be able to talk to each other completely different sides of the planet. And maybe as a whole, it'll be able to help provide change or at least push us in the right direction to do things where we can come together and become more of a, actually have an understanding of someone else and their problems they're going through, and not always be, two completely opposites. And, which is a big problem in this world today.
I really like it. I mean, I love that idea. I think it's definitely something that we face, and something that we know for a fact that media has contributed to is separation. It just, as we talked about with the way things get suggested, and this is no secret, right? You can get into an echo chamber on YouTube real easy, and you can be fed more and more content that thinks and speaks and discusses the same way over and over and over. And the further you go, the further away you get from where you started, kind of thing. It would be beautiful if there was kind of a pendulum swing on this, and instead of division, it brought more unity by people better understanding. Because you're right. I mean, when you travel physically, you just get a different sense of what's going on in the world, whether it's because visually you just see the way someone else lives, or you smell where someone else lives. Like, those kind of things are really impactful. And when you get outside of your comfort zone and you're in those places, it is meaningful, and it can stick with you, and it can really kind of, I can again only speak for myself, but it can humble you in your views of what's going on. Yeah. And give you a lot of gratitude for where you do live. And so that's a very important element of experience.
It is. And the issue is not just perpetuating the echo chambers, because it is, right. I mean, that's what happens on YouTube when you start watching a style of content. You're going to start being fed this kind of content. And unfortunately, that's how the algorithm is so successful at what it does. And something that I've done is I have multiple channels where I watch content, because I see what's being fed to me. So if I just want to watch adventure stuff, I have a channel that's just for adventure stuff. If I want to watch filmmaking stuff, I just have a channel for that, because the algorithm is really good at sending content to an audience. But, you start going down this path. Like, I started watching finance videos on my main channel, and then now my whole feed is like finance stuff. And I'm like, I don't want to just watch this. Like, I had a couple questions I wanted to get answered. Right. And like, all of a sudden, like, now I'm being fed all these creators and all this stuff about Chinese debt and this and that. And I'm like, I don't care about all of this content. That's not the only thing I want to watch. But the algorithm is so good that it can like follow you and be like, oh, he's watching this finance video, let's serve him up these 10 other ones. And then like you watch another one, and all of a sudden, boom, your whole feed is completely shifted.
It's wild to me how effective that is. But when you think about it, how ineffective it is, right? Like, the algorithm has become much better at giving people what they want, or what they think they want. Yeah. But it's really just in its infancy. I mean, it's not. It's intelligent and smart, but it's nowhere near as effective as it could be. If it knew what you actually wanted, that you only wanted a couple minutes of finance, but then you really want to watch this other stuff, and eventually I'm sure they will figure out a way to program it to do that, or let it think on its own a little bit to figure it out. But it goes back to your very original point, which is how young this all is. Mm-hmm. They like, if so many people are, I couldn't start a channel now, it's too saturated. It's so little, and it's getting so many things wrong all the time. So if you put in the time now to establish whatever your platform is, your channel, or what you want to do, then you're in a position as it improves, because it'll improve like this, right? That algorithm doesn't just get better like over time. It gets way better over time, because it learns at a scale that a human could, you can't compute billions of channels ever. It does. And so it'll get better at learning that. I wonder though, because a lot of it sounds like the success of how your videos track is a result of this, right? Like, you make niche content, this person asks a finance question, you happen to make finance content, it's going to shoot it over there, which is really good for growth of a channel. So I wonder what do you think happens to those factors as it becomes better at predicting what people want?
Yeah, I mean, it really comes down to the audience, because the AI is going to follow the audience. So I think maybe right now this is what's working, but as audiences watch more YouTube content, maybe they stop watching when YouTube serves them this kind of content, and it starts learning like, okay, I'm going to feed 2 videos of finance and then 8 videos of the other content he watched. And so I think the issue is the audiences now are probably watching, they get stuck in these echo chambers, and they just keep watching the same content. And so we're giving the algorithm the data.
Right.
And so it comes down to human nature. Like, is it something where we need to change, or like the way that we view things need to change, or is it the algorithm? Because the algorithm is just learning from us and then making changes based on how we will watch more content whenever we come back. So it's an interesting catch-22 here.
Yeah, we have a predisposition, I think, as a whole to like shocking, intense stuff, and that skews a little negative, I think, from time to time.
Yeah.
How do you
elections pop up? It's just going to be a mess for people getting.
Yeah, don't make content during those months, right? Because it's not even going to rise to the top.
Well, yeah, I mean, if it's just you watch one video from a news channel, all of a sudden you're being fed everything from that side of politics, and it's just like, it's so overwhelming.
I wonder if they have anything in place about the upcoming elections, because that really is like honestly, it's scary. I mean, it's scary the amount of division something like YouTube can create, or the amount of understanding it could create. If not, I mean, it would never work this way, that like, okay, you have a question politically, and so you ask it, and instead of giving it the answer that you kind of side with, it gives you the other answer on purpose to show you the opposite side. Like it would break itself, because then no one would ever click through to anything. But
yeah, that's the issue. It's the echo chamber effect, right? Like, people want to see what they believe in already, versus like hearing multiple opinions and then actually like taking a step back and being like, okay, so where do I sit actually when I see the whole picture?
Right, which is a skill I think that everyone could get better at, myself included, is when you have a question about something, is taking into account multiple sides of what the answer could be. And it's, I don't know, it's like if you're doing a research project in like middle school, you have to provide a spectrum of references, right, to show that you researched the topic to arrive at whatever decisions or feelings that you have or opinions. But they should be based on finding out multiple things. The problem is that if you went to the library in middle school and you pulled out an encyclopedia, and as you did that, your cart filled up with 10 other books on the same topic, and you're like, oh, well, I have my material, right? You'd walk away from that with a very skewed view of whatever it is you're trying to understand. And that's definitely something that I think YouTube has cut out for, well, all platforms, right? Is how do you navigate this, giving people what they want, but doing like a social service on developing well-rounded opinions and understanding of the other side. I was wondering before this, how do you manage like your mental outlook on YouTube? Because there is this dopamine aspect to knowing engagement, right? It's kind of like constantly quantifying how many people like you or how many friends or relationships that you have, that if you're a successful creator, you have to be thinking about this stuff all the time. You know where your numbers are at, you know where certain videos are tracking, you know what adjustments you might need to make other ones track better, to reach more people. But with that is this potential for this emotional roller coaster of success and failure happening at such a rate that we're not really conditioned to experience. So do you think about that at all, about like mental health with the growth of your channel?
Yeah, it's tough because YouTube gives you these kind of little dopamine rewards in your back end. So like, let's say a video does well. Let's say it's performed the best video of the last 10. You get this little box in the back that tells you like stats about the newest video as soon as you log into your analytics. And if it's a 1 out of 10, meaning it's the best of the last 10 videos, fireworks start going off. And
Right.
so like you're always wanting to get that 1 out of 10 to make a better video. And things like the YouTube analytics app, like if it's on your phone, you're constantly checking it to see like, oh, how many viewers do I have? Because it tracks hour to hour, and you can see the graph go like this hour to hour throughout the day. And to me, like this has weighed on me a lot, because as your channel grows, you obsess over these analytics. And I know it's unhealthy to like look at this all the time, but it's almost like a compulsion to like look at this all the time, because this is like your baby that you're creating, and like you're seeing the data and how things are working, and you want to see how this video, you just posted it an hour ago, you're like, is it performing well? Do I need to change the thumbnail? Do I need to change the title? And like you're constantly thinking about it. And I definitely got in that rat race of like over analyzing and watching all of my data too much, too often, always checking my phone. Like my screen time was way up, and I eventually got to the point where I'm like, I deleted everything off my phone. So I don't keep analytics or anything on my phone anymore. I never look at how a video is performing. Like I don't want it on me, because then I'll look at it. And it's creating these boundaries, which is hard, because there is that part of you that is getting the dopamine hit every time you check something like this.
Right.
But it's like understanding what makes you feel good or bad when it comes to like your channel and your data, and being able to control that. And one of the ways that I've been working on controlling that, and not putting so much time into actually checking this, is actually like giving myself scheduled days where I like do a deep dive into my analytics. So like the first of every month, I go through my business, and I go through how much money I'm making in each source of income, like each revenue stream. And I go through all my analytics, and I look at, okay, how did my videos perform this month? How did videos perform over 30 days? Because the 30 days is much more data than just the first few hours that you're uploading. Like I put out a video, this weekend, and like honestly, it's gonna have data of the first few days, and you can look at the data and maybe change your thumbnail if you're not getting a good click-through rate. But other than that, like once the video's going, you gotta let it go, because 30 days is gonna be much more telling than like a day of data. And so that's kind of like ways that I fight it, but it's just a part of human nature. Like we have this, it's like this gamified experience. Like I put these videos in, and how does it affect like the actual channel performance? Is it going up, going down? Did I get a 1 out of 10? I got a 5 out of 10. Okay, so what could I have done better? So like you start getting up in your head too much.
I had this experience the other day. I love that you prioritize things now. Like I really admire that, because it's so hard to turn off these elements. And I had one experience that actually scared me, and it made me like, it stopped me kind of in my tracks and made me think about it. Is I was training a client virtually, and there was a notification that like pinged on my computer. Usually I have them off. I don't know why this was on, and it showed like the traction of it, this Instagram reel. And it was the first time that one ever crossed over like 20,000. And in the actual moment that it happened, I felt my mood change. Like I was training the client, just kind of like everything we normally do. It pinged, and it was like I drank a cup of coffee. Like instantly, I was like perked up. I felt really vilified. Like everything was good. Like all the efforts that went into that video meant so much. And I got super attached to this thing in that one moment. And I had to kind of check myself. I was like, whoa, that's not good. That's not good to have that acute of a response to something that, one, is just going to ebb and flow, as we've talked about on here. It's going to go up, it's going to go down. There's going to be changes to the algorithm that you don't know. They're going to launch a new campaign. They're going to promote something else. Like there's so many things that are just going on in the back end. But I had become so conditioned by doing exactly that. The second something goes up, track how it's doing. What do I need to change? Should I adjust this? Do I need to change the wording? Do that. You can totally drive yourself into the ground.
Yeah, I think that's a big part of what causes burnout. So like you get in this rat race, and there's a lot of creators have talked about burnout over the last few years, because what happens with YouTube is like you get rewarded for having good performing videos, and so you want to make more good performing videos, and you get caught in this rat race of checking your analytics, and you're just focused on like, I need to get a 1 out of 10. I need to just keep putting out videos until I get a 1 out of 10. What can what are the little things I can tweak here and there and this and that? And it just starts weighing on you, and you take a step back, and it's been a couple of years, and all you've been doing is making videos, and you haven't really been doing anything else that you actually care about in your life. And it's I'm glad that I got into mountain climbing years ago, because that's always been like, I do a climb at least 1 or 2 times a year, and I usually make them a pretty big deal. So it's like,
and you got to train for it. And...
yeah, you have to train, you have to pull yourself away from everything else. And then when you're actually physically doing it, even though I film it, like I don't check my phone. I'm there in the moment. And I think the most telling thing is when you're sitting on the side of a cliff and like you're standing there, you have to be 100% focused on what you're doing at that time. And coming back from those experiences, it makes you realize like you don't need to be checking stuff all the time, and you don't need to be thinking about everything at all the time. And like you said, you got to check yourself once in a while, because these apps, these different companies, their goal is to keep you on the app. Whether you're a creator or a viewer, like either side, they want you always on there consuming. And it's, everything's become gamified, and it's like scrolls and this and that. So you just got to realize, like, why are you feeling good? Is it from that notification that you got that made you super excited? And, do I need to find a way to turn these off so that I don't see this and I don't get focused in on the wrong things? And for me, I have all notifications turned off on my phone. I don't have anything come through. I turn them off on my computer, and I basically, the only thing I have come through are like contacts that are most important to me, that I like. My wife, I need to know if she calls me or something, or my parents, or like different people that I talk to on a daily basis. Like that's stuff that I'll have those on. But any application, YouTube, Instagram, anything, I turn all those notifications off. I've deleted most of the apps off my phone. I only have the main YouTube app to watch content, because I consume content, but I don't have the analytics. I don't want to look at that on my phone. I have no reason to. And then I took Twitter off my phone recently because I was spending too much time, and it's a very toxic environment. I have Instagram, but I don't use it as much anymore, because I realized that, you go on there and you just start swiping and you lose track of time. I don't have TikTok. Never really got into that. I'm glad I didn't. TikTok's an interesting one. Obviously, it's new. Like everyone's using it right now. But I've talked to a lot of people where I see them like sitting there scrolling for like a while. And I'll be like, hey, what did you just watch? And they'll be like, oh, I don't really know. It's really telling about that platform. Like people don't like, it's very much like you're there in the moment, and you kind of lose track of whatever you're watching. And like take TikTok a step back.
It's addicting.
It's addicting.
I got on there just for reasons of like promoting the show. And one, it's effective. Like it rewards you quickly. It gives you, they know that the new users are the bread and butter, right? So they reward new users pretty quickly. And you're totally right. I mean, you can just get on there, and a lot of times you're not watching stuff. You're trying to get to something that you want to watch, and then you have no idea. But it's this. You brought up an interesting thing about the analytics. Like every platform that comes out now, whatever it is, whether it's financial services, whether it's a media creation platform, they provide you so many analytics so that you can make business decisions, right? Like even on Stripe, I'll use as an example, right? Which is very effective, because like you can actually make budgeting decisions and financial decisions for your business because of the analytics that you get. So it's super useful. It's still overkill in a lot of aspects, because there's so much that you can do. You can run a 0-person company on there. You can run like a 250-person company on there. So they cater all that. But then you also go on YouTube, or then you download TubeBuddy because you want to optimize your search, right? And then TubeBuddy provides you analytics. And so you can just sit in your office and do nothing more than analyze your analytics and make 0 decisions about what you're going to do from it. It's so weird. But they know that.
I think a big part of it is understanding what your goals are before you start digging into analytics of whatever app or software you're using, and what data is actually going to help you figure out if you're moving towards those goals. Right. And so, let's just take YouTube, for example. If you want to grow a channel and you want to have more subscribers, well, your metric that you want to focus on is subscribers, like how many people are subscribing. And so you're going to look at the data, which videos are creating more people to hit that subscribe button. And is there a moment in that video that people are, like watching? Like if you say, hey, subscribe to my channel in a video, and then you don't in the next video, which video gave you more subscribers? So you start quantifying like things that you can do to build that metric, but you can't take it all in and try to have an understanding of what's going on. And I think it goes back to like earlier when I was talking about seasons. If you're in a growth season and you want to get subscribers, well, you're going to focus on the tactics that are going to bring people into your channel and actually hit subscribe. But if you're focused on making money and you want to earn more off of, your affiliate sales or your courses, well, you're going to look at which videos and what data actually correlates to people clicking over to your course and then buying that course. And so I think before even like opening up a platform is having a clear understanding of what your goals are, like what do you want out of this, and then figuring out the metrics that are going to help, quantify that and make so that you can make data-driven decisions. Because it's good that we have access to all these analytics. Like I think it's a great thing that we have access to so much data because it allows us to be able to make data-driven decisions. But we need to be able to understand of which specific parts of data that we should be looking at, and that comes from knowing your why or what your goals are.
I love that. I think that that's a massive. I actually just did that this morning on the whiteboard. I was getting so frustrated with certain aspects. I was like, I'm focusing on all the wrong things. I'm focusing on things that aren't at a stage where they warrant my focus. I need to write down a why for why I'm doing this. Mm-hmm. And just in doing that alone, like writing it down up here and erasing everything else that I was looking at, it just felt like it was kind of a moment of clarity. It just felt good because if you focus on that, like, why do you want your channel to grow? And how big do you want it to grow? And once it's there, what will that allow you to do? If that's the focus versus I want to hit 1,000 subscribers and that's all you focus on, well, then if you're not tracking towards that and the content's not getting better to cater to that, then you're just going to get frustrated. But if you want to like connect with people or you want to build stories and a platform to then, whatever it is that you want to do, then each single person that enjoys what you're doing, it means something because they're getting closer to that, your bigger picture. Do you revisit your why a lot and refine it at different stages in your channel?
Yeah, it's something I definitely have in the back of my mind. A few months ago, I went through and kind of did a big overhaul, just, not making content, took a step back, got my whiteboard out and like figured out, okay, so what is my why? What do I want to do? And, there's different things like, financially, where do you want to be in 5-10 years? Like that's something to think about. Like how much money do you need to get to that point? And, are you on the right path to do that? Is this the right method? The why of like, why am I building this channel? Like what's the main purpose behind it? Like who is this for? Am I just trying to do it to make myself have a lot of views and like, hey, look at me, I make content? Like, is that what your goal is, or do you actually want to help someone? And I think that's important. And that's, I like my main channel, I want to help people create better video content and actually find their own why and actually produce something with the content they're producing rather than just going out and shooting B-roll. Like if somebody wants to tell a story, they need to figure out how to tell a story and then where to put that story. Right. So it's something I'm constantly kind of thinking about. I'll like set up my why and set up kind of where I'm going, and then I'll start making content and keep going through that. But every few months I'll revisit it, make sure I'm going down the right path of my overarching goals that I want to have.
I love that. Well, Jeven, it's cruised by as it always does. I'm excited to stand by again on the sidelines and watch this continue to grow and everywhere that you choose to take it. But I really appreciate you taking the time to be here to impart your wisdom and chat about a discussion that we'll have to revisit in the future as the channel continues to grow.
Yeah. Thanks for having me on. It was a fun chat.